He had a badge, a gun, and the kind of walk that says, "I own this land now." But something didn't sit right. It was just after 6 that morning. The sun barely crept up over the pine line, casting that gold shimmer across the lake, the kind that makes you feel like maybe, just maybe, the day could be peaceful. I stood on the deck of my brother's old cabin, holding a coffee mug with 2 chipped corners and a stain that never came out. That mug had seen more fights than most men I know. Then I saw him, uniformed, armed, walking with a purpose straight toward the porch of Nathan's place, my brother. Except the boots. Cheap leather, thick soles, the kind you'd grab at a hardware store on clearance. No cop wears boots like that. I stepped off the deck, heart hammering like it was trying to punch through my ribs. "Hey," I shouted, "can I help you?" The guy didn't flinch, just kept walking, slow and heavy, hand hovering over his belt like he wanted a reason. That's when I saw the patch. Looked real enough, but the stitching was off. Too clean, too new. Nathan opened the door just as the man reached the steps. His voice, calm, firm. "This is private property. State your business." "I'm with county enforcement," the man said. "You're violating multiple homeowner association codes. Step outside." Nathan didn't move. "I'm not part of your damn association." The man raised his voice. "Now?" I moved quick, came up from the side, angled so I was just out of the guy's field of view. "Badge number?" I asked. Silence. He turned, and that's when I saw it. Nervous eyes, just a flicker, but enough. His hand moved. "Gun!" I yelled. Everything exploded. Nathan ducked. The man reached. I lunged. We crashed to the dirt, rolled in gravel, fists and elbows flying. His pistol clattered away under the porch. He scrambled, kicked me hard in the ribs, and bolted. I swear time froze as I looked up at my brother, still standing on the steps, barefoot, eyes wide with something between fury and disbelief. That moment, that was the last peaceful second we had that summer. Let me tell you something. I've lived a long time, seen tornadoes rip apart whole towns, watched men break in courtrooms, seen friends bury their kids, but I've never seen something so calculated, so deliberate, as the look on that man's face when he pulled that gun. We called the sheriff. Took them 4 hours to show up. 4. In that time, I walked the woods, tried to find the guy's trail, but nothing. Like he vanished into the trees. And when they finally rolled in, lights flashing like they were responding to a parade instead of a potential murder attempt, they acted like we were the problem. "You say he had a gun?" one deputy asked, squinting like I'd just claimed Bigfoot drank my beer. Nathan pointed under the porch. "It's still there." Deputy looked. "We'll bag it. Might take a few days to trace." "Might," I leaned in. "You got a rogue armed man impersonating an officer, threatening a U.S. senator, and you're saying might?" The deputy stiffened. "Senator?" Nathan didn't blink. "Keep it off the record." Now, you might wonder why a sitting senator's hiding in a lakeside cabin dodging HOA drama. Truth is, Nathan needed space. The politics, the scandals, the non-stop noise, it got to him. This cabin was our escape. Our dad built it with his own hands back in '71. No permits, no fuss, just wood, nails, and sweat. And now, apparently, it was a battlefield. Couple days passed, and that's when the signs showed up. Staked into the ground at the end of the gravel road. Violation of HOA Covenant, Section 14.2, structures subject to review. Then another, property under dispute, pending enforcement. I tore them down, every single one. But the next morning, twice as many. I ain't got time for mind games, so I drove into town, straight to the county office. I needed to know who was backing this. That's when I saw her. Blonde floral blouse, clipboard in hand. Karen. Not a name, an archetype. If you've ever dealt with a homeowner association, you know the type. She smiled like a snake sunbathing. "You must be Frank," she said. "We've been expecting you." Have you ever walked into a room and felt like the walls were already closing in? Because that's exactly what it felt like. And what she said next, that cracked the whole thing wide open. "We're moving to reclaim misused community land," she said, like she was reading it off a pamphlet. "This cabin, unfortunately, sits within a protected easement tied to the Homeowner Association charter." I blinked. "What charter?" Karen didn't answer. Instead, she motioned to a man behind her, a short guy in a pressed polo and loafers, holding a laminated folder like it was holy scripture. He opened it with a little theatrical flair, slid out a sheet, and said, "Your father signed a covenant back in 1983 agreeing to abide by association regulations should expansion occur." I stared at him. "Expansion?" He nodded solemnly. "In 2004, the HOA voted to absorb the North Ridge. Your parcel falls within that boundary. You're legally subject to oversight." That's when it clicked. They weren't just targeting us. They were rewriting the damn map. Quietly, piece by piece, pulling in land that was never part of the association to begin with. My dad never signed anything like that. Hell, he couldn't stand the HOA back when it was just 3 houses with too much lawn. And now Nathan's name was about to be tied to a property in violation of phantom rules. I felt my jaw tighten. I leaned in, real low, and said, "You send a man with a fake badge and a real gun to scare my brother?" Karen didn't even blink. "I don't know what you're referring to. We follow all legal processes." Legal, my ass. I left before I started breaking things, but I took that document folder with me. Might have slipped it out when she turned to talk to someone else. You ever done something like that? Not for money, not for revenge. Just to see what the hell they're hiding? Back at the cabin, I flipped through every page. Fine print, footnotes, maps so fuzzy you'd think they were faxed in from the moon. But buried near the back, I found it. An appendix with contractor authorizations. A list of private security firms the HOA had contracts with. And there it was. Atlas Community Solutions. I recognized the name from the busted radio the fake cop dropped. Only now, it had a signature next to it. S. Martin. That name sounded familiar. Took me a second. Shayla Martin, HOA president. Used to be a paralegal, now plays Queen of the Mountain. I dug deeper, found her social page, pictures of her posing in front of renovation projects that just happened to displace old tenants. She ran HOA like a startup, quiet buyouts, stealthy enforcement, intimidation where charm failed. Nathan looked at me across the porch when I laid it all out. "I can't go public," he said. "They'll spin it, make it look like I'm abusing my position." I got it. He wasn't scared for himself. He was scared of being used, of his enemies twisting the story until he was the villain. So I did what any big brother would do. I said, "Then I'll be the villain for you." That night, I drove out to an old hunting shack we used to keep stocked, picked up a couple trail cams, night vision, even one of those old motion-activated sprinklers that scared off deer. I wasn't planning a war, but I damn sure wasn't going to wait for the next ambush. Funny how quiet the woods get when you're on edge. Every twig snap sounds like a tripwire. I set up cams around the property line. No signs, no warnings, just eyes in the dark. And it paid off. 3 nights later, I caught movement at 2:16 a.m. A truck, unmarked, pulled up the ridge road with lights off. 2 guys got out, walked along the south trail, stopped near the back shed. One of them had a crowbar. They left without breaking in, but they were looking for something, maybe testing response time, maybe checking if we were watching. Next morning, I printed the footage, full color, clear as day. Taped it to the cabin door with one sentence: "Try it again." I didn't know if they'd take the bait, but I knew one thing: they weren't done. And I wasn't either. The bait worked, just not the way I expected. 2 mornings later, I walked out with my coffee and saw tire tracks across the gravel, still fresh. Not from the county, not delivery. I followed them around the bend and nearly dropped the mug. The shed door was wide open. Whoever came back, they picked the locks, clean. Nothing broken, nothing forced. But inside, every box had been opened. Fishing gear, tools, even the locked ammo case had been jimmied. But they didn't take anything. They wanted me to know they could get in, that this was their game now. Nathan stood behind me, quiet. He just looked at the mess, then at me. "They're escalating." "Yeah," I said, "and they want us to make the first wrong move." I stayed up that night, sitting on the back porch with a baseball bat across my lap. Sounds dramatic, I know. But if you've ever felt someone watching you through the trees, you understand. That kind of silence buzzes. Somewhere around 3 a.m., I heard it. Footsteps, then the flick of a lighter, then voices. I crept along the side of the cabin and peeked around the shed. two figures leaning against the truck, smoking. "He said we just logged the presence," one whispered. "Yeah, but if the brother gets aggressive—" I stepped out. "Funny thing," I said loud enough to make them jump. "You talk like you're keeping records, but you trespass like amateurs." One of them dropped the cigarette. The other reached for something. I didn't wait. Raised my phone and snapped a photo with flash. Smile. They jumped in the truck and peeled out, dust cloud curling into the porch light. Next morning, I posted that photo on the local bulletin board at the gas station, printed a few extras. One went to the sheriff's office with a little note. "Visitors, thought you might want to meet them. You ever try to shame a system that doesn't feel shame? That's what this felt like tossing pebbles at a concrete wall and hoping it'll bleed." By midweek, we got our answer. A notice, nailed directly into the trunk of Dad's old oak. Emergency action. Unsafe structure determination. Vacate immediately. That tree had been there longer than most of the HOA's members had been alive, and now they used it as their bulletin board. Nathan read the notice in silence, then handed it to me. "They're calling it unsafe," I said. "Based on what?" "No inspection, no report, just their word." He nodded. "They want us out now." We sat on the porch that night, staring out at the lake, quiet, the kind of quiet where grief sneaks up on you. "I remember," Nathan said finally, "when Dad brought me here after my first campaign loss. Said, 'This place doesn't judge you, just asks if you're man enough to fix a leak.'" I chuckled. "And you still let the faucet in the kitchen drip for 6 years. He smiled, but it faded quick. "I'm tired, Frank." I looked over. Of politics? Of playing nice? Of people thinking they can rewrite rules in the dark? That's when I knew something shifted. The brother I used to protect didn't need a bodyguard anymore. He needed someone willing to cross a line with him. The next day I made a call. Old friend, retired contractor, owed me a favor. He showed up with a van full of demo equipment and a grin like he was 20 again. We didn't touch the cabin. Instead, we reinforced it. Rebar anchors, custom steel bars for the windows, and a surprise, an old safe room paneling setup from a canceled job in Nevada. He installed it in the basement. "This ain't just a retreat anymore," I said as we bolted the last plate. "It's a fortress." And that night, we waited. Not scared, just ready. The storm didn't come loud. It came legal. 2 days after we locked the last bolt, a woman from the county showed up. Tan blazer, flats, hair too neat for lake dust. She had papers in hand and a deputy in tow. Not our regular guys either. This one had no nameplate, no badge number I could see. "We're here to conduct a hazard inspection," she said, per complaint filed by the Homeowner Association. Nathan stepped up beside me. "You have a warrant?" She smiled like she'd rehearsed it. "We have an administrative order, different process." You ever hear a phrase that sounds legal but smells like manure? I folded my arms. "You can look all you want, from the gravel. You step 1 inch past that line without a warrant, and you'll be in court for trespassing." The deputy shifted, hand on his belt, but he didn't move. I think he knew we weren't bluffing, or maybe he just didn't want to be the guy on video forcing his way into a senator's cabin. They left. But they didn't stay gone. That evening, a drone buzzed past the front window, got close enough to rattle the wind chimes. Nathan was on the couch reading. He didn't flinch. "They're not going to stop, are they?" he said. "Nope." I checked the trail cams. 3 different sets of tire marks at the ridge entrance. They were circling, watching, waiting for us to slip. That's when I drove out to see Daryl. You ever know someone who walked out of one life and never looked back? That's Daryl. Used to be a tech contractor for private security firms. Now he runs a salvage yard out past the quarry, keeps to himself, drinks old soda, and still has more encrypted gear than most departments. He owed me 1, or 5. I told him what happened, showed him the drone footage, gave him the name, Atlas Community Solutions. His face darkened. "They archive everything," he muttered. "Digital logs, dispatch audio, even fake IDs." "Think you could get in?" I asked. He didn't answer right away, just looked at the footage again. "If they're using the same backend they used in 22, yeah, but it'll take time. Start tonight." I drove back in silence. Nathan was still on the porch, same mug in hand, same look in his eyes. We didn't talk much that night. until the sheriff came back. This time, he came alone, parked slow, got out like he didn't want to be there. He didn't even make it halfway up the path before he sighed. "Frank," he said, "they're pressuring my office, county board's breathing down my neck, and you're lighting brush fires." I didn't say anything. He looked up at the house. "I like you, I respect your brother, but I'm telling you, whatever you're doing, stop. You're poking something bigger than this county can hold." "You telling me to run?" I asked. "I'm telling you to be careful." Then he left, and that silence returned, the kind that settles into your bones, like the quiet before a funeral. Later that night, my phone lit up. Daryl had something. One audio file. A man's voice, clipped, direct. "Keep them unsettled, presence only. Do not engage unless the senator is absent." Then another. "We clear to escalate?" "No, eyes only until further notice." It was them, Atlas, proof they'd been monitoring us, that they had direct orders to harass but not attack, orders that came from somewhere high. Nathan listened, didn't speak for a long time. Then he stood, went into the bedroom, and came back with a key. "What's that?" I asked. He looked me dead in the eyes. "To Dad's lockbox, the one under the floorboards." The air shifted. I hadn't thought about that box in years, not since the funeral. And whatever was inside, it was going to change everything. The lockbox was heavier than I remembered. Nathan pulled it from under the bedroom floorboards, blew off the dust, and set it between us like a damn relic. We sat there for a second, neither of us touching it. That box had been in our family longer than most of the county charter. Whatever Dad put in there, he meant it to stay shut unless the world came unglued. And guess what? The world was halfway there. He opened it with a soft click. Inside, papers, old cassette tapes, and a bundle of envelopes wrapped in rubber bands so dry they cracked when touched. I reached for the one marked in red ink. Leverage. It was a list, names, dates, payments. The kind of stuff that doesn't get published but makes people resign quietly. Nathan read it once, then again, slower. "This isn't just HOA," he said. "This is zoning boards, inspectors, land transfers going back decades." Dad had been tracking everything. We played one of the tapes, a conversation from 1994, clear as day. "Theo, if we pass the parcel rezone, we can push out the old cabins, raise the valuations, easy votes from the board. You'll get your bonus, just keep the senator's name out of it." I paused the tape. Nathan sat back stunned. "That was Councilman Avery," he said, and the other voice was Shayla Martin's father. Layers, generations of this mess. This wasn't some petty HOA drama. This was a damn dynasty built on intimidation, fake rules, and quiet bribes. And now they'd sent a fake cop to our front porch. You ever feel like a thread you pull just keeps going, unraveling everything? We made copies of the contents, digital scans. I hid a flash drive in the deer salt lick behind the shed, another inside a gutted smoke detector. If they were watching, I wanted them paranoid, wanted them to know we weren't scared. But we still needed something public, something they couldn't bury in committee hearings. That's when I remembered the old HOA charter meeting recordings. Dad used to sneak a recorder into every town hall. Said people act real different when they think history won't remember. I dug through the rest of the box, and sure enough, labeled HOA 2004, Expansion Vote. We popped it in. Voices distorted by time, but still audible. Now, we'll just say it passed. No one checks minutes anymore. Then Shayla's voice, young, cocky. "As long as we keep it quiet, they'll assume it's always been the rule." Nathan looked at me like he'd been gut-punched. "They never legally expanded the HOA," he said. "They just acted like they did. 15 years of rules, fines, threats, built on a lie. Now we had what we needed. But here's where it got dangerous. We couldn't go to court. That'd take months. They'd spin it, stall it, bury it in technicalities. And press. Shayla had friends in every outlet that mattered. We needed an angle. So I went back to Daryl. "Can you spoof an internal HOA announcement?" I asked. He grinned. "With the right format? Hell yeah." The plan was simple. Fake a mass internal email. Include the audio clips. Include the fake expansion quote. Send it to every HOA member and board affiliate from a spoofed admin account. Then watch the panic. We prepped it, wrote the copy like it was a whistleblower email that got loose. Daryl made it look like it came from inside Shayla's own system. All we needed now was a trigger. Something to make them feel invincible, just long enough to fall hard. And wouldn't you know it, next morning a moving truck pulled up. 3 uniformed security contractors got out, walked right up the path, and knocked like they owned the place. Nathan opened the door. They handed him a notice. Final notice, mandatory evacuation. Failure to comply will result in civil seizure. He looked at me, and I knew it was time. All right, I said, let's light the match. The moment the fake contractors pulled away, Daryl hit send. The spoofed message looked perfect. Right headers, right formatting, internal jargon, only someone on the inside would know. Subject line, urgent internal leak, contain immediately. And in the body, the recording of Shayla's voice admitting the expansion was a lie. The old vote clip, the payment logs, photos, screenshots. We even threw in a few red herrings just to keep them scrambling. By noon, the emails had spread like wildfire. Karen from the HOA called my brother's phone 6 times, left 2 voicemails. First one was cool, almost pleasant. We should talk, maybe resolve this peacefully. Second one, not so friendly. You've made a serious mistake. There are consequences for impersonating internal personnel. This won't end well for you. She still thought we were bluffing. By 3 p.m., the first resignation hit. Treasurer stepped down for personal reasons. Then the compliance officer, then 2 board members, like dominoes. And Shayla? Radio silence. That night, Nathan and I sat out by the lake. The moon was clear, but the air felt tight, like the woods were holding their breath. I can't believe it, he said. Believe it, they cracked. He shook his head. No, not that. I can't believe Dad never told me. He kept all of this, for decades. You were busy keeping the state from falling apart, I said. He knew your hands were full, and he didn't trust the system anymore. Can't blame him. Nathan turned toward the house. What now? I lit a cigarette. Now we wait. People don't let go of power easy. Shayla's gonna make one last move. You feel it? He nodded. Yeah, I feel it. Next morning, she made it. 2 black SUVs parked at the bottom of the hill. Not marked, not local. 4 men stepped out, earpieces in, one carrying a black briefcase. I watched them from the tree line with binoculars. They weren't HOA, they were cleaners, corporate problem solvers. One stayed by the vehicle, the others started toward the path. I pulled out my phone, hit record, and walked down to meet them. You boys lost? I said, casual. The lead guy showed me a laminated ID. Didn't read it, didn't care. It was fake, just like the badge from day one. We're here to discuss a private property resolution. Great, I said. I got a resolution for you too. I held up my phone and played it. Shayla's voice bold as ever. We'll just say it passed. No one checks minutes anymore. They froze. You want to keep walking? I said. You better know who you're working for. The guy lowered his hand. Another one stepped back. Then one of them made a mistake. He muttered, She said this was off the books. I smiled. Thanks for that. They left, fast. And by evening, Shayla Martin's house was dark. No lights, no cars, gone. You ever see a queen abandon her castle overnight? That's what it looked like. But I wasn't satisfied yet. I made one last stop. The next HOA meeting. I wasn't on the list, but I walked in anyway. Heads turned, gasps. Someone tried to block me. Didn't matter. I walked to the front, dropped a flash drive on the table. Here's your legacy, I said, and walked out. Outside, Nathan waited in the truck. Think it'll stick? He asked. I looked back at the building. No, but it'll bleed. And that was enough, until I opened the mailbox back at the cabin. Inside, a single envelope, no return address. Just one line handwritten on the front. You think it's over? That envelope sat on the table for hours. Neither of us touched it, like it might hiss if opened. But eventually, curiosity outweighed caution. I opened it slow. No threats, no demands, just a photo. It showed Nathan and me sitting on the porch 2 nights earlier, taken from the woods. high-angle telephoto lens. We never saw the flash. And scribbled on the back, "You brought this on yourselves." You ever feel your stomach turn to gravel? That's what it did to me. Nathan stared at it for a long time. Then, without a word, he tossed it into the fire pit. "Let them watch," he said. "We're not hiding anymore." But I wasn't so sure. Someone out there had money, reach, and now a reason to hit back. Shayla was gone, but the network, still breathing. I went back to Daryl. "You ever trace a photo source?" He nodded. "If it's digital, maybe. Printed, not easy. But the angle, that's off-grid land. Private. Belongs to someone named Delmer Pierce." Name rings a bell. "It should," he said. "Used to be HOA board. Dropped out last year. Quietly." So I drove. Pierce's place was run down, overgrown, faded signs half buried in weeds. I found him out back, feeding chickens. Looked older than I remembered. Tired. When I showed him the photo, he didn't flinch. "Figured it might come to this," he said. "They never forgive a man for walking away." "You take this?" "No, but they used my ridge. Probably figured I was too old to notice." I waited. Then he sighed and went inside. Came back with a manila envelope. Handed it to me, like it weighed 100 pounds. "They used to meet up there, Shayla and her crew. Drilled it into my head that keeping quiet was safer. But I kept notes, just in case." Inside were timestamps, maps, even receipts. One showed a payment for strategic photography services. "I'm tired," Pierce said. "But if you're standing up to them, maybe it's time I did too." Sometimes allies come from places you least expect. That night, I sat with Nathan on the dock, lake still as glass, fireflies blinking like old memories. "You think they'll come back?" he asked. "They already did," I said, "but now they know we're not alone." He nodded. "Maybe that's enough." We didn't burn the cabin down. We didn't move out. We stayed. Reinforced the windows, kept the trail cams running, started logging every vehicle that passed. And we made damn sure that every new family moving into the area got a copy of the real HOA charter, the one that showed where the lines truly were and weren't. Karenology, if you're still listening, remember this. Power doesn't vanish just because you cut off the head. It slips underground, reshapes, and waits. But if you shine enough light on it long enough, it starts to rot. We didn't win with lawyers. We didn't win with a crowd. We won by dragging the lie into the daylight and daring it to breathe. That's how you kill a monster like this. One flash drive at a time,